Hey there, everybody. If you are dealing with symptoms of vertigo and dizziness, you might be trying to differentiate between two of the most common causes of that, which are Meniere's disease and BPPV, which is benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. So in today's video, I want to help you just differentiate which one's causing which, or which one might be causing your vertigo and lightheadedness and dizziness and things like that. So there's 3 to 4 really distinct factors that will tell you which one is more likely. So let's go through all of those in this video, and then I'll give you a couple more tips at the end too, just to kind of help you round things out and figure out what to do next. First off, though, with BPPV, which again is the most common cause of positional vertigo, typically what you see is that vertigo comes on suddenly, intensely, in a short duration with specific position changes and movements. So while BPPV and Meniere's disease are both episodic in terms of it kind of coming and going, the BPPV is much more predictable in terms of specific head movements will cause the vertigo, and it's a much shorter duration, typically 10 to 20 seconds. So duration is big, and the cause of the vertigo is big there too. So again, 10-20 seconds with BPPV, whereas Meniere's, you may not even change positions, and all of a sudden you start to feel these symptoms of dizziness and vertigo. You might even just be sitting there, and then instead of it lasting for 10 or 20 seconds, it might last 20 minutes, it might last 2 hours, it might last the better part of the day. So those are two really big things right off the bat, is that again, BPPV tends to be a specific position change plus a short duration, very intense, whereas Meniere's is what I just said, so not quite. The other ones that are big key differentiators is that oftentimes with Meniere's disease, you're going to have ringing in your ears, which we call tinnitus. So that ringing in the ears, usually on one ear versus both of them, you very rarely, if ever, you should never have that with BPPV, because BPPV is not affecting the auditory part of your inner ear. It has nothing to do with your hearing. It has much more to do with your just sensory organ telling your brain which direction your head is moving in. So again, with Meniere's, you're much more likely to have tinnitus, ringing in the ear, as well as some hearing loss. So that's another big one. If you're having any of those auditory symptoms, it's typically not going to be BPPV. So another ones to kind of keep your eye on. The other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is oftentimes you're going to feel some fullness in your ear with Meniere's because you have these little high drops, what they call them, little, just like almost like little sacs of fluid that are putting pressure in there. So sometimes in addition to hearing loss or the ringing in the ear, you might have a little bit of fullness there too with Meniere's disease. And again, you should never have that with BPPV alone. The last thing that I really wanted to highlight in this video was that typically when you're testing for positional vertigo, so BPPV again, you're going to have nystagmus. You're going to have a visual eye movement when you're doing these tests. So for example, if you lay down real suddenly, and that's what causes your vertigo, you lay down and all of a sudden, you know, you can see it, or you have a friend or a partner helping you, like video your eyeballs, and you can see your eyeballs are moving. We call that nystagmus when they move. That is typical with BPPV, but very rare with tinnitus. So watch out for those eye movements too. So that should help you differentiate. I will say too, last kind of big point I wanted to make was that it is possible, and not in a not in a perfect world, but it's possible that you could be having both. I don't see it that often where people have both BPPV and Meniere's at the same time, but don't rule it out. So usually if I'm, commenting here on YouTube and telling people to help them differentiate, you just say, well, if you think you have BPPV, even though it doesn't sound like it, go ahead and do the positional tests because they're pretty easy to do. You've got the Dix-Halpike test, which I'll link these two tests at the end of this video here, but you have the Dix-Halpike test to test for the most common type of BPPV, which is that posterior canal, and on that one you're usually going to see a torsional nystagmus, meaning your eyes are kind of twitching and beating up at the same time. And then with a supine roll test, super easy to do too, and then on that one you're looking for horizontal canal BPPV, where your eyes are going to be going side to side, kind of like beating to one side at a time. So when in doubt, try those tests on your own at home, or work with your physician or your PT to do that, because it's easy to rule out BPPV, whereas Meniere's disease is more of a medical diagnosis. You have to look at more of the symptoms, the history of what could be causing it, and then you might have to actually do advanced like testing and imaging to confirm that it's Meniere's. And that's going to have to go through your doctor, or like an ear, nose, and throat doctor, like an ENT specialist. So that's my last advice, is that you can do some things to kind of ferret it out at home. Use all these things that we talked about to help with that differential diagnosis. And then if you need some help, either with treatment or diagnosis, find a good PT in your area that specializes in vestibular issues, or find your ENT doctor if you can. So hopefully that all helps you differentiate between those two, Meniere's disease and BPPV. Like I said, I'll link up those 2 videos at the end here for Dix-Halpike testing for the posterior canal and supine roll test for the horizontal canals. I hope that helps. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe before you go if you thought the video was useful, or if you have some tips that you want to share here in the comments. I'd love to hear those too, either with your self-diagnosis or treatment of these types of things. So please leave those before you go, and thank you for watching.